only few Scott the Woz episodes where the border isn't over the entire thing. This is what it looks like when it's on top of everything. But I can kind of look through all of this and just kind of like see if there's any interesting editing notes and whatnot. Pretty much here, I was kind of, I deleted something where I kind of wanted there to be like a voiceover, kind of like there was in It's Awesome Baby, where, you know, the villain would be like, no, 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 this isn't how it should be. You know, it's gonna be like the blue border talking, where it was just me with like a disguised voice. And it would probably, it was kind of something where it just like, I'm sick of this. It was gonna like speak over space. But I thought like, without it, it works without it, because like you just kind of see like the shape kind of like go over the planet there. You know, it didn't need anything here. I just think just having space, because it just foreshadowed what was, you know, the the climax later down the line. And you know, I kind of felt like it was a little too like, I don't know, on the nose. It didn't need to be there. It was pretty much just gonna be like voiceover just going like, I'm sick of this! I'm sick of this! It's been 4 years of stupid Nintendo games! Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't need that. But that was just, as we can see, this goes deep. Look how many different, so this was a shadow, pretty much. This was the blue border shadow. If we give it whatever, a background. Yep, there it is. So that was just there. And then when we go one clip deep, then we can see, oh, it's right here. And this is just stock footage of the Earth. But I wanted it to look just like it belongs with the rest of the space shots, because the rest of the space shots, or most of them, have this general look of space, which was done by Emily, who animated pretty much most of the, yeah, I think all of them, all of like the exterior space shots of like all the spaceships. And she gave me this background of space, and I was like, all right, so I think I'm going to just use this for all the space shots. So that meant I had to do a mask to get this Earth shot by itself, pretty much. And it came out okay. I think the Earth looks a little flat. I will be critiquing pretty much everything I possibly can about this, because I am obscenely proud about how this project came out. Of course, it's not supposed to be taken too seriously. It's a stupid video. But you know, like, I feel like it looks a little flat there, so I probably would have changed that a little bit. And then we go into here. This was the first thing ever done for the video. This animation was done by Megan. And it's some of like the only main like CGI that I've really had done for the show. Mainly because this was like one of the few times where I'm kind of like, you know what, CGI works for this specifically, for what I wanted. Because most of the time I prefer stop motion and clay, mainly because when you're working with like these, you know, like projects that aren't multi-$100 million budgets or anything like that, if you're gonna do CG, like if all the spaceship shots were CGI, it would have looked stupid, because like we don't have like, you know, like any, you know, I don't have the budget to do like, you know, crazy, you know, CGI that you'd see in a $200 million production. And you can always tell with CGI, like it almost always looks like cheap. This is where CGI fits, in my opinion, for a project like this. Because stop motion, it's so much more interesting to look at, and I already know, it's just like, this all looks fake, so at least make it fun to look at. You know, like when it's fake CGI, it's not fun to look at. Something like this is where CGI makes sense, in my opinion, and it came out really, really good. I really like that all. And I tried to keep the aesthetic similar to It's Awesome Baby, with just like how the credits and everything looked, pretty much. I originally wanted there to be credits like throughout the entire opening, like during this segment, but overall, like I kind of felt like putting credits were just like animation by blank, music by blank, blah 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 blah. The only thing I really could have done was like animation by the people who did animation for these segments, which, to be fair, they also did animation later down the line. So this was done by 80, and 80 did the opening credits for You're Not an RPG Guy, and I had her do the title sequence, or at least like the Borderline Forever title right there. And then I had Emily do this. This was one of the first things that she did for me, and then she did the opening title for You're Not an RPG Guy, and then she also did the spaceship shots here. So technically speaking, I probably could have done animation by, it was for the blue border CGI, it was Megan, and then this was Emily, this was 80. And they did most of the animation throughout the rest of the thing, except Megan only did the CGI here, and then Emily did that, 80 did that, and then Emily did exterior spaceship shots, and 80 did the interior stuff. Outside of that, there was Faith, who did the dream sequence backgrounds, and then there was also all the 2D animators who did the credits. So I could have done that, but, you know, it just kind of felt like, you know, I can just have all the credits at the very end, like literally everybody possible that worked on this thing. So I just kind of decided to just keep the credits there, and then at the very end. And the original idea for this part was to have kind of like light beaming out, and I sped it up a little bit, because like if we normalize it and then we do that, whoops, let me let me do that. It was a little slower, so I sped it up to kind of match the stuff. Pretty much what 80 sent me was like great. But that I asked, like, hey, can you kind of give me like different layers so then I can like kind of change things a little bit, because this was you know, not as dark, and I just kind of wanted it to be a little darker. And this portion was like, as you can see it kind of like the border changed to a 2D border. It goes from 3D to 2D, and I felt like it this entire segment ended up looking really fluid, when in reality, like the original animation didn't, like, was a lot slower like that. That's what I asked Megan to do, but I was like, you know, it's kind of like you take this animation, you want to make it fit your music and whatnot. All right, so my computer pretty much froze there because this is a stupid project. But yeah, that's pretty much like the opening credits. I really love how these turned out. And these were the first things that were done back in like June, July or so. I pretty much started talking to Nick and Garrett about music for this around this time. And I had really rough ideas for, like, you know, like how this animation looks and whatnot. And then I kind of picked it back up in January with this kind of stuff. Like, I pretty much worked on this. This effect was added very late. Like the idea of like, I just wanted like the blue screen coming down to be more impactful. And I always kind of thought about doing this for like a cinematic kind of thing, where it's like, you know, the blue screen comes down and it's not as fluid as it is. It kind of like a big thud, you know, boom. You know, I kind of added that later. And I added just a little like dust effect pretty much there, which is just stock. I usually get my stuff from a website called Footage Crate in terms of like explosions and whatnot. But then we move on to this portion. And this portion, the beauty of this episode was that I did a lot of these things in batches. So, you know, I mainly started with the opening credits here. And then I was like, all right, full on me working on the, you know, the VHS tape. And this was completely supposed to be like a throwback to The Internet and You, like I edited this just like I did with the Internet and You. I just thought like, oh, the perfect thing to do would be like, I'm gonna do a VHS tape, so it'll be like the Internet and You, and then it'll also be, you know, like just like me kind of like poking fun at the video game video community, not community, just like the style of video game videos on YouTube. And doing this in batches kind of allowed me to make as many references as possible without getting like burnt out on it. So I mainly worked on this, and you know, I kind of went through and I thought about any video I featured throughout the series that had kind of a VHS effect. So it'd be like the Just Ask Scott column from Mario Odyssey versus Breath of the Wild, this from E3 2000, Water Z EX Plus from Definitive Editions, How to Talk About Video Games, which is this one, the Internet and You, just the standard Internet and You VHS tape, Marketing I Can Sell Deception 2 from Player's Choice, and then the Wii Chess promotional trailer from Wii Chess. And then I grabbed this. This was redone. Like, I had to redo this shot because the original shot that I had, I didn't have, there wasn't a white label on the VHS tape, and I realized like, oh god, like you could see the VHS tape, like you could see the top of it enough to tell that there wasn't a white label, and then at the very end, like I pull up the VHS tape and it has the white label, so I had to redo these shots. This was done in January, and I bought a CRT just for this. Thankfully, that CRT has come in handy a bit more, because I've had to do like shots where I use like the NES Zapper or use Rob with the NES. They didn't work very well, but I at least had a CRT to use them on. But this was actually kind of like messed around with a bit. I had to do some masks. Yeah, because you could see me in the reflection there. So I had to use some masks just to kind of like, I don't know, have just like a nice blank shot there. And as you can see, I just used like a screenshot. You can see like a Final Cut little scrub bar right there. I just basically took a screenshot and then I used the blank screen there to just kind of, you know, help me out there. And also with that, like without these masks, like it kind of autofocused and the exposure went up and down. And I know that's a thing with my videos a lot. I'm not great with that. But I want to, you know, with this, I was just like, you know what, I have time to fix this, so I'm just going to fix it. And this isn't something that I really wanted to like redo, where I was just like, God, like I don't want to set all this up again, because this is just on my TV stand, and then just moving this TV out, putting it on there, taking my HD TV and putting it down. It's a mess. But here, then we have the shots of like me at the desk on the TV. These were done in person. Like this was actually just like, there's no effects going on here. It's literally just like I filmed the TV. And what I did with that, I have a box that connects my laptop, or not my laptop. It can convert an HDMI signal to a composite signal. So pretty much like I just did that, where I plugged my laptop into the box, and then I plugged the box into the TV, and then I could play this video on the TV. The problem is, I kind of forgot how horrible it is to film CRTs, because they don't play well with your camera's shutter speed. It's really lame. So a lot of shots have these flickering effects. I didn't really care, because it was literally like that gave off the vibe that, oh, this is actually on the TV. Because anybody filming these TVs can remember, like, these things flickered all the time. And these are some of the only shots that came out, like, okay. I think I would have preferred to kind of cut between, like, these shots and shots like this where it shows on the TV a little bit more. But I felt like, you know, like this at least gave you the impression, okay, this is on the TV, it's whatever. And this was added later, mainly because when Garrett sent me his mix of the music, like his work in progress of the music, he had this little portion that was kind of like, it kind of kept going, and I felt like with this little Genesis twang moment where it goes like it just fit the the part where I put the game in and turn the console on so well. I just felt like it totally made sense to just kind of like go from the NES chiptune, and then when it changes to a different style of music, it changes to like the new segment pretty much. So I came up with the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna have shots of me kind of going through the games. And like I said, because I was doing this in batches, I could put in as many references to older episodes as humanly possible, without burning out or kind of coming up like having a hard time coming up with references. Pretty much like I tried to come up with as many just showing off as many games, or just like a lot of these games I've done episodes on specifically. You have the Sonic games, Sonic CD, the N64 games that I've covered. I believe that's Super Mario Kart, and then you have like NWC, Zelda 1, Dino Ricky, which is from Tales from the Backlog, Hatris from Game Collecting, Yoshi's Cookie from a look back at Virtual Console, and that's a reference to instruction manuals. That's a reference also to Tales from the Backlog, and pretty much all of this was done in January. And I sent Garrett and Nick very, very rough versions that just kind of had like, a very rough idea of like what this was. And then eventually I fully finalized the timing and whatnot. Now, the thing is, with these shots were done at a different time, which you might be able to tell. Like, if I do that, the lighting is very different. In retrospect, I think what I should have done there was make these camera angles substantially different from the old ones. And pretty much like I just thought like, okay, I can just kind of like mess with the color as much as possible to look like these old ones. In reality, like I said, I probably would have preferred to do something where it was like more of a close-up shot of me, at a different angle, maybe at like the other side of the couch, instead of trying to mimic this as much as possible, because the lighting was pretty different there. And no matter what, this was like, I had the idea of it ending on just like that. I like that. I will say another thing that I probably would have changed a bit. Also, this is probably a good. Yeah, this was done in January. This was done in April. So pretty different. But I think it came out pretty good in terms of like looking like not being a huge difference. I think like one thing, I made the audio too quiet. Like I think I at least like at the beginning when I first appear on screen, I feel like the music drones out a little too much. I kind of made it a little too quiet there, but that's kind of like the only major thing there, and it's not even a big deal. Then this was done in like May. I think a lot of this was done very like all over the place. This was one of the last things that I did. It was just kind of like, I just didn't want to, this was during the reshoots when I had to reshoot, this portion right here. This was during that, so then I could,